Hi there, I'm Mike. Thanks for joining me. Today, for My Story Animated, I'm going to tell you how I pretended to be a policeman to date girls. I went all the way. I even wore a uniform. You won't believe how fast the seemingly innocent joke escalated. Things became too dangerous, too fast. From day one, as I walked on the streets, people looked at me with respect. Some of them even bowed as they saw me. It didn't take more than 2 days to realize the power that uniform had. I saw a dude about to cross the street and told him to wait for the sign. He looked at me really scared and waited. No questions asked. He even lowered his gaze. A speeding car slowed down as it passed next to me. This was so much fun. I saw a couple of hot girls walking in my direction and I stopped them and asked them for their IDs. They didn't seem scared. They even smiled at me and offered me their phone numbers. That night, my ex-girlfriend was throwing a party at her house. She'd broken up with me in front of the entire school, so I decided to show up for a little payback. I dressed as a cop, and as I walked over there, I started to see some people gossiping and going away from the party. I entered the house and shouted, "Police, hands up!" Before they even cared to see who I was, they were already on the run. The house was empty in no more than 2 minutes. Nancy, my ex-girlfriend, appeared not knowing what was going on, and when she saw me, her jaw dropped. She said, "Mike, what the hell?" I laughed hard in her face and said, "Oh, I wasn't invited?" Before she could answer me, I was already walking out of the house. "You'll pay for this," I heard her shouting in the distance. The next day, I decided to call on one of the girls that gave me her phone number the day before. We went out for a drink. I was wearing the police uniform to look cooler. She took a picture of us and tagged me on Instagram. Nancy would probably see it. Good. We were chatting and having fun when suddenly we heard someone screaming. A woman on the street was complaining about a thief that had just stolen her purse and was running away. The girl that was with me told me to go after him. I told her that it wasn't necessary, that some other cop would catch him, but she insisted. She even said it was for our country or something like that. Damn. I started to run after the guy, shouting, "Police, stop!" It felt kind of powerful, I have to admit. I played football at school, so I ran pretty fast. A couple of other policemen were on the chase as well, but I quickly outran them and continued to chase the thief. What was I thinking? I was having an adrenaline rush. I got closer to the thief and shouted, "Hands up or I'll shoot!" I didn't have a gun, of course, but I heard that all the time in the movies and it sounded awesome. The thief stopped, dropped the purse and turned around. As he saw I didn't really have a gun, he tried to pick the purse back up, but the other cops were getting closer. So he left it and ran away. I grabbed the purse, still panting, and gave it to the policeman. "It's your catch," one of them said and gave it back to me. "You should give it back to the lady. That would definitely make me look good in front of my date." We got back and I gave the purse to the woman. All the people there bursted into applause and my date kissed me. It was so cool. But 2 seconds later, one of the cops said we should head back to the station to write the report. What? What report? I acted naturally in front of the girl, but I had no idea what they were talking about. I told her we would have to reschedule our date for another time and kissed her in front of everyone. I was starting to feel uncomfortable in the uniform. I felt taller. We arrived at the station and the chief of police came to congratulate me. I was scared for a moment, thinking that they might find out I didn't belong there. But he didn't care about that. He started to say that I was a great example for the station and that he needed more brave men like me. It was awesome. I felt huge. But then he said they had an operative that same afternoon and that he wanted me there. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. Things were escalating fast. I couldn't tell him I wasn't really a cop. That would be the confession of a felony. And I already was inside the police station, so they would surely lock me down. I had to play along. They took me to a conference room with all the other cops and the chief started to talk about the strategy for the operative. As I heard the words marina, containers, and mafia, I started to get really scared. Then he started to talk in some sort of code as he pointed at us. Alpha, Echo, Tango, Foxtrot. He was talking so fast, what the hell was he talking about? Later, I discovered that those were code words for the alphabet, but I had no idea why he was using them. He separated us into teams of 4, and we all went to change our clothes. I followed them and did exactly as they did. They gave me a bulletproof vest, and I had to hide my shaking hands as I put it on. I remembered my date with that gorgeous girl from that morning, and now it seemed like years ago. With the rest of the team, we got inside a van. They were all dressed in black from head to toe, but they were chilling and making jokes, so I relaxed a bit. I heard one of them talking to me. "Is this your first mission, kid?" he asked. I nodded in silence and swallowed after the word kid. What was I doing? I wanted to cry. I felt so cool a couple of hours ago. "Don't worry," he said. "Just stay behind us. Try not to get shot." Wait, what? Shot? And then he handed me a loaded gun. Man, it was so heavy. I never grabbed a gun before. When we arrived at the marina, it was already noon. They all got out first, and before I got out, I slowly hid the gun under my seat. There was no way I was going to carry that with me. They moved fast and spread out. I was suddenly alone in the middle of the road. A new and very different adrenaline rush got to me. It gave me the strength to run fast and hide under a container. I heard they were talking on the radio. Again, they were using those strange code words. India, November, Mike, I heard. What? I said, I'm here. I thought they were talking to me. I didn't know Mike was another code word, but I got no answer. Oh man, I was so stressed. I didn't understand anything. Everything was happening so fast. From under the container, I saw feet moving from one side to another. And then, in the distance, I saw a huge luxurious yacht arriving at the pier. That's them, let's go, I heard on the radio. But I was alone, and I was definitely not going to get out of my hiding spot. I saw the rest of the team as they got closer to the yacht, and then the shooting began. I covered my ears and hid again. The sound of the gunfire was so loud. Something inside me told me it was not a good idea to stay there anymore. So I got up and ran away from the shooting as fast as I could. My mind was blank. I couldn't think of anything but surviving. After a couple of minutes, I saw that someone was running in front of me, and as he saw me, he started to run faster. I thought he was running away too, so I followed him. It didn't take me long to reach him, and when he saw how close I was, he stopped, turned around, and tried to hit me. The adrenaline in my body had improved my senses and my reflexes. I kind of felt like Spider-Man. I didn't know how, but I dodged the fist that was coming fast towards my face, and without even thinking about it, I closed my fist and hit him instead. The guy fell to the floor in a second. He didn't move again. Oh my God, was he dead? Did I just kill a man? I was in so much trouble. I was too scared to touch him, but I couldn't take my eyes off him either. I simply stood there, shaking. And then I heard on the radio it was over. Mike has him, I heard. Were they talking in code again? All the cops came running to where I was, and they started to cheer as they saw who the man was on the floor. I was still in shock and didn't understand much, but apparently the guy I just hit was the head of the gang. When they turned him over, I saw he had a gun on his belt. And that was it. If he'd used his gun instead of his fist, I would probably be dead. I don't think any adrenaline would be enough to dodge a bullet. I thought of the bullet in my stomach and instantly threw up. I was so embarrassed. The rest of the cops started to laugh as they grabbed me and hugged me. It was so confusing. They took me back to the van as they celebrated the victory. One of them confessed that he threw up on his first operative too, and they all laughed again. As we went back to the station, I started to feel the pain in my hand. One of the cops said that the adrenaline blocks the pain for a while, but it had been quite a punch. As we entered the station and I thought nothing else could happen to make this day worse, I saw my dad. He was standing there with the chief of police on one side and Nancy on the other. What was my ex-girlfriend doing there? And the explanation came fast in my mind. She'd seen the picture of me and the girl on Instagram and gave me away. You see, my dad was a true cop, and the uniform I wore to get chicks was in fact his. He'd been out of town for a few days, so I took the chance. I was in so much trouble. Now, they would surely lock me away and Nancy would have won again, making me look like a fool in front of everyone. But instead of giving me a lesson, my dad started to smile and cheer with the rest of the cops in there. Nancy ran towards me, hugged me, and kissed me as she said, "My hero." I was puzzled. I didn't know how to react. What the hell was going on? My dad also hugged me and said he was proud of me, that he always expected me to follow his steps, and now that I was finishing school, it would be the perfect future. He even started talking about a scholarship being arranged and everything. But I didn't want to be a cop. I used it as a disguise to get girls and to make Nancy jealous. And after the terrible experience I just lived, all I wanted to do was run away from there as fast as possible. I wouldn't mind if I never saw a policeman again. But I couldn't go anywhere. I was the center of attention. Everyone was looking at me, asking me questions. Apparently, no one seemed to care at all the fact that I wasn't really a policeman. My dad was telling everyone that it ran in the family. He was so proud. Nancy didn't leave my side either. She was too comfortable with me being famous and her being my girlfriend. And that proved that the uniform was a great idea to date chicks. But now I realize I had gone too far. Not only did I not want to be a cop, but my life had been in real danger. The chief said they were going to set an act to give me a medal for my bravery. I had to get out of there. Since Nancy didn't leave my side, I told her I had to go to the bathroom. I went inside and climbed out through the window. As I saw some policemen outside, I hid inside the building next to the police station. The cops continued walking, and when I looked up, I realized I was inside the fire department. This was actually great. I could definitely disguise as a fireman. because firemen had to cover their faces to work. No one would know it was me and I could escape. So I went into the dressing room and put a suit on. I put the helmet on and hid inside the fire truck. I was sure they wouldn't find me there. But suddenly, a very loud siren started to sound and I had to cover my ears again. Someone ran inside the fire department and shouted, "Fire!" This was not happening. I hid inside the truck and stood silent as a lot of men started to appear from every side. They suited up quickly and they all got inside the truck. With no time to lose, all the trucks left the station. I got up and saw at least 7 other men dressed like me on the truck. They were busy setting up the equipment and paid no attention to me. I looked down to see if I could jump off the truck, but we were speeding. The noise was deafening. But it served to make everyone in traffic open a spot for us. It was kind of cool to pass every red light and to see the police on the streets cheering for us. Maybe I wouldn't get girls in this uniform, but it certainly made me feel cool too. Not even a second later, I started to feel comfortable in this new uniform. The trucks turned around the corner and a huge fire appeared in front of us. A building of at least 10 stories was burning up fast. We heard screams from the balconies. Everywhere I looked, it was chaos. Some firemen took out their fire hoses and aimed them directly toward the fire. One of the men was struggling with his hose, so I quickly lent him a hand and between the two of us handled it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but the chaos didn't give me time to think. Other firemen were using the special ladders on the trucks to bring down the people from the balconies. Suddenly, an explosion came out from the building and hurt one of the firemen on the ladders. They were trying to bring down an old lady, so without hesitating, I climbed onto the ladder and helped the fireman. We brought down the old woman just in time to see the whole building collapsing. She was the last one. Everyone was safe. With the furious water coming out of the hoses, the fire was finally extinguished. As the ambulances appeared to help the wounded, I saw a million reporters arriving at the scene. I had to run away. I couldn't let my face be seen. But as I walked slowly away, a few firemen grabbed me and started to jump in celebration. They took each other's helmets off, and I couldn't hold on to mine in time. Damn. My face was now clear in front of the cameras. My father was probably seeing it. I wanted to die. Apparently, this was the day of the hero, but I didn't feel like one. I felt ashamed. I didn't deserve the applause. I realized that all my life, I'd lived surrounded by anonymous heroes, and instead of respecting them, I used to make fun of them, not knowing to what extent they risk their lives every day. It only took me a second to understand. So as the camera was pointing at me and the reporter was offering me the microphone, I said exactly that. The men around me were the true heroes, the men that dedicated their lives to serving and protecting others, not only firemen, but the policemen as well. I learned the hard way why those uniforms were powerful and what they really represented. Of course, people would look at them with respect and fear. Of course, girls would want to date those brave men. But I also realized that they weren't jobs for me. I've tasted a sample, and I wasn't ready to dedicate my life to any of them. It was an act of cowardice, I knew. But trust me, real life has nothing to do with the movies. As I saw the reporters and the audience shift to other firemen, and as I heard the police sirens in the distance, I realized it was time for me to disguise and escape one last time. I saw a medical gown inside one of the ambulances, so I got in, closed the door, and changed. Then I opened the back door, left the fireman uniform on the street, and got inside the passenger seat of the ambulance. I saw my dad's car passing the ambulance, so I lowered my head and hid. I sighed, and a second later, I heard on the ambulance radio that there had been an accident a few blocks away. I opened the door to get out, but the paramedic got inside, on the driver's seat, and said, "Great to see you're free, let's go." Oh man, can this day get any worse? I didn't dare answer that as the ambulance left at full speed.